Konbanina, Proto-moto Desk, and welcome back to another deck profile. Today we have Rosemon Burst Mode, and this is my first Digimon deck profile, as well as this is the deck that placed me second place at Bakersfield Esports recently, so let's just get right into it, alright? So starting off, we play 4 copies of the Kokomon. This is EX4 Kokomon. The reason why we play this is that we are suspending our Digimon a lot, and the trait effect goes off a lot, so you'll be able to go into your deck and get resources out of it. So your turn, and once per turn, when an effect suspends one of your Digimon, draw 1. And then finally, we play a 1 copy of the BT2 Argomon as a little memory gainer during when the Digimon becomes unsuspended during your opponent or during your unsuspend phase. Gain 1 memory. So basically, what happens is that you'll have your level 3 or higher level monster that's basically suspended, and then you unsuspend during your turn. You gain another memory, which also adds up to hopefully 4 when you do play your tamers. But moving on to our level 3s, we play 2 copies of Terriermon. These 2 copies are your floodgates for your opponent's memory. So all turns, your opponent can't gain memory other than by tamer effects. And this is a BT3 Terriermon, and this was reprinted in RB1, so they're pretty cheap right now. Recommend picking them up if you do play a green deck and need a floodgate. Next up, we play 2 copies of Pomumon. This is the BT9 version, and during all turns, players can't play Digimon by effects. Next up, we'll play 4 copies of Palmon from BT10. So basically, on play, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Vegetation, Plant in one of its traits, and 1 card with Fairy in its traits among your hands. So you could add up a total of 2 cards off the mill of the 4. And then this is also a really good card just to gain a draw if you have a spare one, but typically you just want to kind of hard play this, get what you need, and add to hand. And then finally, for our last level 3, we'll play 4 copies of Lalamon from BT13. So on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in one of the traits, and 1 Yoshino Tamer among them to your hand, and then place the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order. So that's it for our level 3 rookie Digimon. Next, we're moving on to our level 4s. We play 2 copies of Red Vegemon. So the reason why I play 2 right now, you could bump this up to 3 max, because if you play 4, it's a little bit bricky. But there's a really good low level play cost, as well as a low level evolution cost. So basically, a lot of times what I would do is to Digivolve in this from 0, put them to 1, and then choke them in the memory. But this is the BT10 version as well. Next up, we play 4 copies of Sunfalmon from BT10. So when Digivolving, by suspending 1 of your green Digimon, you may play 1 Digimon card with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in one of its traits with 3000 DP or less from your hand without paying its play costs. So this is really good if you want to just suspend either this or something else to bring out a level a easy target. So for example, you could just bring out your copy of Lalamon, and this on play effect will activate because it's not once per turn, so you'll be able to mill more. Next up, we do play another different copy of Sunfalmon. We play 4 copies of the BT13 version. During your main phase, by suspending this Digimon, one of your Digimon may Digivolve into a Digimon card with Fairy in its traits in the hand for the devolution cost. When it would Digivolve by the effect, reduce the cost by 2. And then this one also has a pretty good one where when this Digimon would Digivolve, if you have a green tamer, reduce the devolution cost by 1. So basically, anything after you go into your level 5, you're able to basically reduce it if you do have the green tamer out, which is really nice. A lot of times you're able to go like into your level 5, so basically 1 at the end of the day. So it's pretty good and really useful. I would say max this one out, and you could dump down the BT10 version to 3 if needed to make room for other cards. But next up, we play 4 copies of BT13's Lilamon. So when Digivolving, you play 1 Yoshino from hand without paying the cost, and then it's inherited trait. While your opponent has a suspended Digimon, this Digimon gains security attack +1. So this is really useful because what happens typically is that you'll go into your Lilamon. Hopefully you have Rosemon in hand, and then you just Digivolve into Rosemon for either 2 or 1, and then you can just swing into it and get the security. So either that, or what happens is that you'll swing for 7k security, suspend this, and then Digivolve into the Rosemon, and basically unsuspend something that your opponent controls, unsuspend that, and then basically get 2 checks at that point. Combo actually did with me a couple of games here and there, so I could swing with lower level Digimon. Next up, we play a couple of 1-ups. We play 1 copy of Argomon from BT2, and then 1 copy of Blossomon from BT3. The reason why is that these cards have the Digisorption, so when you play these from hand to Digivolve, you could basically suspend something else on the field, and then go into for free for a 5, and then go into your Rosemon or any other level 6s that you need, because these will save you memory at the end of the day. These didn't come up too often when I played against Royal Knights and the Lilithmon Mill deck. It really wasn't helpful at that point because I was basically just kind of going into everything else because you only could play 1 of each. So it does help at the end of the day, but you definitely could run without it, but I highly recommend you do. Next up, we play 2 copies of Lilymon from Structure Deck 4. The reason why I'm playing this specifically is because it's just another mill where you do top 5, and then you add 1 level 6 or higher Digimon card among them, which basically is either your Rosemon, your Hydramon, or your Bloomlordmon, which does happen a lot, because we do, I think we run at least like 8 megas. So you only play 2 copies of this one, and it's also pretty good for a 7k beater as well. And then next up, we play 4 copies of Rosemon. This is the BT13 version. So when Digivolving, by suspending 1 of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, unsuspend this Digimon, and then all turns once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon or Tamer becomes suspended, suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. So basically, like I said before, with the Lilamon combo, basically you would have whatever's underneath the stack, right? Lilamon, you will swing with Lilamon for 7k for 1 security check. If it survives, which most likely it will on most occasions, you could just Digivolve into the Rosemon for 3 or less, depending on what you have on board. And then when this is suspended, you could target 1 of your opponent's Tamers, and then or Digimon suspend it to unsuspend this, and then you'll get the secondary effect to suspend something else on board, and then you could swing for 2 checks essentially. But moving on to our other level 6s, we play 1 copy of Hydramon. So Hydramon is interesting. This is from the EX3 pack. So when Digivolving, you may suspend one of you or your opponent's Digimon. All turns, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, for each other suspended Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits you have in play, gain 1 memory, so it also helps you gain memory. And then end of your turn, once per turn, if you have 2 more suspended Digimon with Vegetation or Fairy in the traits, place 1 of your opponent's suspended Digimon on the bottom of the owner's deck. This didn't really come out a lot in terms of my main deck. It was really just kind of held up in security, and it's a good body for 13k, but I was not seeing it consistently enough. But you could drop this to run something else that will allow you to go into your level 5s a bit easier, but it's just an option for now as I have the deck. And then finally, for our final level 6s, we play 2 copies of Bloomlord. So Bloomlord, when Digivolving, may suspend 1 of your Digimon, and then gain 1 memory for each suspended Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy, and 1 of their traits you have in play. And if you gain 2 or more by this effect, unsuspend this Digimon and gains Piercing for the turn. And then during your turn, for to suspended Digimon you have in play, this Digimon gets 2k DP and Security +1. I went into Bloomlord mod pretty fast, to be honest, during my games, because I was able to control the board with my Terriermons and Pomumon. So when it came to Digivolving into 6, I was able to suspend a couple of things to gain the Piercing at least, and then gain 2 memory, which is pretty helpful at the end of the day. So you'll essentially be bringing this out for 2 if you have the right pieces. And then for our final boss monster, we only play 3 copies of Rosemon Burst. So you could Burst Digivolve this from 0 using Rosemon, and by returning 1 Yoshino Tamer to the hand. At the end of the Burst Digivolution, you just trash this to the you just trash it. And then when Digivolving, suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon and 1 of their Tamers until the end of your opponent's turn, and then all their Digimon and Tamers don't unsuspend. So basically, if you're able to suspend your opponent's monsters before you go into Rosemon, those monsters that they have on the next turn don't unsuspend. And then when attacking, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack for every 2 of your suspended Digimon and Tamers. So what happens typically is that this is like more of a near end game kind of card where your opponent has stuff on board. You've managed to suspend something, a couple cards here and there. So you'll just go into either Rosemon using your copy of Hidden Potential, or you just burst Digivolve just in case. If you feel like you do have game right there. A lot of times I wasn't really confident when I had game. So I ended up using the Hidden Potential method, which basically would drop the cost down to 0. And then basically you almost swing for 2 checks basically because of the trashing effect. And then depending on what you have, for example, like the Lilamon, you could actually be swinging for 3 at the end of the day, which is pretty cool. All right, so that's it for the Digimon. Next up, we have our option cards and tamers. So first off, we only play 4 copies of the Yoshino from BT13. This is our memory tamer, so if you have 2 or fewer memory, set it to 3. And then your turn, when one of your Digimon digivolves into a Digimon with vegetation, plant, or fairy in one of its traits, by suspending this tamer, gain 1 memory. So basically what you'll do is that you'll basically end up suspending this to reduce the cost for free, essentially, for a lot of cards. And then it just sets you to 3 the next turn, so it's pretty good. And then finally, for our option cards, we play 3 copies of Green Memory Boost. So this actually helps me out a lot more than I thought it would be, because a lot of times, right, is that my mills wouldn't be anything good. I'd just be adding stuff to hand for later turns. But this one will reveal 4 and add 1 generic green Digimon, so I could add other copies of my Terramon or Pomamon, depending on like if I needed them. But it also has a really good effect of where you could pop this on the your next turn to gain the 2 memory. And here are my last option cards. We play 1 copy of Hidden Potential discovered. So the next time one of your green Digimon digivolves this turn, you may suspend one of your Digimon to reduce the memory cost by 5. This is pretty powerful because 1, you'll be gaining the draw off the Kokumon if you do have something else with this as it. So you'll be drawing 1 off there, and then you'll be drawing off your next Digivolve. So that's 2 plus 2 in your hand right there, and then it's limited to 1, so you only get to play 1. Next up, we have 1 copy of Flowerkin. So this one was in my hand more often than not. I really like it, the security, where you can spend all your opponent's Digimon without blocker, but the main one's not bad for a 2 cost just to spend something else. A lot of times what happened would be I would have Rosemon Burst Mode out to spend something else, and then use this to suspend something else to get that extra trashing effect, and then swing for game. And then we have Grandel Soul. So when you would play this card, if you have 2 or more suspended green Digimon play, reduces cost by 2, which is pretty good. So you basically play this cost for 6, and then for the main effect, spend one of your Digimon, one of your opponent's Digimon, then return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of his opponent's deck. So basically is a 1 then do the other. So a lot of Digimon rules are kind of weird. So you got to remember, period, that's 1 effect right there. Then return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So basically what happens is that if your opponent has 2 suspended Digimon, or you suspend one of their unsuspended Digimon and they have another one that's suspended, you can basically just bottom deck the other one. And then security is basically activate the main effect, which is pretty good. All right. But yeah, so far I really enjoy this deck. I like Rosemon. I think it's a fun archetype. It's not too powerful as of yet. I do know that they will be coming out with a Lilymon Ace version, so we'll see how that pans out in terms of the deck. Honestly, if that does come out, I think I'll be probably dropping the Hydramon for the Ace, because the Hydramon, not the greatest, but yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know what you want me to build next. I'm really excited about getting into Digimon, and I want to know what decks you like to play as well. All right, so thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, so sayonara.